All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for yet another live reading of Hunter x Hunter. Time to get started with, well, volume 28. And looking through it, it says we have volume chapters 291 all the way to 300. Oh, when we get to 300, that means we are only 100. Yeah, we're only at like 110 away. Well, we only have 110 chapters left before I fully caught up to the series. So let's go ahead and get started, shall we? Yo, peoples! Kyushu92 here. Welcome back to yet another live reading of Hunter x Hunter. We're going to be going through volume 28 today. And like I said, chapters 291 all the way to 300. And then after that, we only have 110 chapters left before I can say I have caught up and read through all of Hunter x Hunter as it stands right now. So, needless to say, I am excited because these volumes have been getting more and more intense given the story. And last we let out on, the king refused to fight Chairman Netero, saying that I would rather talk than fight. And the chairman decides to provoke Netero, saying like, if you won't fight, well, actually, do you know what your name is? Because the king has been wondering this whole time. Poof has a name, Yuppie has a name, Pito has a name, but the king is the only one who doesn't have a name. So Netero says like, fight me if you want me to tell you your name. And then the king's all like, I bet, and then gets ready to fight. So let's begin with chapters 291. Chapters 291, Soliloquy, or Soliloquy. Soliloquy? 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 I don't know the right way to pronounce that. I've known of it, but I've never exactly said it for me to get the pronunciation right. Chapter 291, Soliloquy. And right as we get started, the chairman jumps high into the air. Also, I am reading from Viz. I only read from official sources. I cannot show these because I don't want to come under fire because of copyright. So, use what means you have, but I will never promote free places for people to go because I can still get in trouble for that. But the chairman jumps high into the air and narration starts as the king looks at him. Netero leapt the instant the king responded. And it shows the chairman jumping high into the air as if he's sitting on top of a big old flower. Like, I don't know exactly what type of flower this is, but I have seen the design for it. I've seen, the design for it. I think it's like a flower that's associated with Buddhism or Hinduism. I think it's Buddhism. No, I think it's Buddhism. I can't remember, but he jumps high into the air and just brings his hands together to pray. And then we go back in time where the chairman was fighting numerous people. Anytime, come on. And people try to fight the chairman. When did I start waiting for my opponent to make the first move? And it shows a swordsman literally facing and mind you, the chairman is all hands. And he has a swordsman preparing to fight him. Hee-yah! 100 type Kuan Yin Bodhisattva. And he just brings his hands. Let me see if I can get this right. Let me see if I can. Hold on. I remember he did this in the anime. Oh, there it is. He brings his hands like this to be 99s. Yeah, he brings his hands to be 99s. I hope I'm doing this right. Hold on, I'm trying to get it right. Because he brings his hands like this, and it's sitting on top of the other hand. I'm trying to I'm trying to get the hands right. It won't even let me see chat. Let me see what people are saying because new people are showing up. Sorry about that. Let me see what everyone is saying. I can't see what you guys are saying. Get off of my screen. Let me see my people. This YouTube app has been acting so finicky where I can't see. There it is. Zach. I just got to episode 95. This anime is so peak. It really is. So he brings his hands up to look like 99s. 100 Taekwondo Bodhisattva. 99th hands. And from this position, all these hands just come shooting forward like and they just launch at the king. And he absolutely gets smashed into the ground by these hands, and the hands just go. There's just like just endless amounts of hands while he's okay. So he's got his hands down. Oh, I think I got it. His hands are down. I'll drop a sub, but I can't stay. I don't want to get spoilers. Okay, go ahead and head out. I'll give you a sec. I'll give you a couple of seconds. Go ahead and head out. Go ahead and head out, because I definitely don't want you to be spoiled. If you're watching this from the anime, by all means, watch it. I think he's gone. So I'm gonna continue. I think he's gone. Okay, cool. Thank you for the sub, by the way. But it just shows Netero just beating up on the king with all of these hands. When indeed. And we go back in time. And he's constantly beating all of his opponents. And it shows one big, massive, burly man just knelt on the ground, coughing up blood, apparently, after Netero beat him again. And it shows Netero older. Like beforehand, it showed him with wrinkles, and he had like a bit of a goatee. Here, his mustache and his brows are starting to come out a lot further now, and his beard is starting to come down lower. It became a routine. The loser held out his hands in gratitude for the lesson, and I graciously accepted without skipping a beat. As if that was what I wanted! That's not how it should be! For so long I sought the height of perfection! And he's saying this while he's demolishing the entire area, fighting the king. I dreamed of giving my heart and soul to battle an unstoppable adversary! And it shows the entire valley that they're fighting in. The ground is being caved in from the impacts of Netero. And then they crash through the floor, because apparently there's an entire underground space in this valley. They crash through the floor, both the chairman, both Netero and the king. And Netero is still airborne. And the king gets up after moving some rubble away. And then Netero is just walking towards him out of the dark, hands outstretched, going, "This is a grave. Yours." And then a hand just comes and slaps the king to the side before the king could even react. I'm a lucky man. I'm thankful for everything that led me to this point. That led me to you. And Netero makes basically this heart shape with his hands and puts it over his heart. And that's the end of chapter 291. Onwards to chapter 292. Okay, all right. Sorry, I gotta flip through this real quick. Chapter 292, Hidden Agenda. And when he does the heart shape, the hands come together, the Bodhisattva hands come together, and they squash the king. And when that happens, he brings his hands down for a chop, and then another hand just goes and slaps the mess out of him, causing the king to hit the ground, bounce off of the ground and kind of subtly crater into a pillar behind him. And the king could only watch, as the narration says. The king could barely follow Netero's afterimage in the compressed time. He was consumed by a single emotion. And it shows Netero bringing his hands together to pray again. And then he just brings his hand up. And then the Bodhisattva hand comes up and smashes the king into the pillar. Unreserved admiration for his enemy. As it shows the king being tossed around by Netero. But he's just like awestruck by just all of this strength he's seeing from Netero. He's all like, wow, he's impressed. And then the king gets sent flying again. And then the king comes flying out of the dust, apparently a lot faster than Netero was expecting, and launches at him. But before he even gets close, Chairman Netero has already brung his hands up again. There. And then in that instance, he gets slapped away by the hands of Bodhisattva. Putting his hands together. The first motion in his attack. The only move that surpasses my speed. Such a wasteful motion should be fatal in combat, yet it works as a weapon against me. It's pointless to speculate to how he mastered it. Such a lesson cannot be learned logically. He must have yielded to an emotion akin to insanity. Then we go back in time. 5 years, or perhaps 10. Oh wait, 5 years, or perhaps 10. He must have devoted himself wholly to that purpose. And it shows Netero, even as he got older, still doing that same practice of praying and then punching. Like 10,000 times in a single day. And then we cut back to the present, as that same motion is used to send the king flying again. Then it's quiet. Then the king speaks. Splendid. I appreciate the time and effort you expended to better yourself. And here are the fruits of your labor. All that and no damage. Well, I expected as much. And this is Netero thinking to himself. You are a rare example of transcending one's limits through sheer effort. Huh? I commend you. Bravo. Why, you little... You think you're so far above the rest of us, smug little insect! And he brings his hands together and goes to swipe at the king. And it looks like the king is swiped, but then the king starts rebounding all over. Much to Netero's surprise, and he launches at Netero. And when he tries to launch at him, Netero is faster and slaps him away. The king responds by constantly bouncing off pillars and launching at Netero. And brings his hands together and slaps him away again. The king's strategy was simplicity itself. Keep attacking. The 100-type Bodhisattva, Netero's only move that surpassed the king's speed, didn't cause enough damage to concern him. In the end, he's just a puppet, and I can see the strings. I just need to identify all his possible moves. I'll deduce an attack angle that cannot be parried with a move I've already seen. That will force him to show me a new move. Be that as it may, his moves are finite, but the combinations are numerous. They may as well be infinite. And then Netero continues to move his arms around. However, each individual always has a distinct rhythm. Subconscious Predilections? Yeah. Subconscious predilections form individual styles. If I can ascertain the characteristics of his rhythm. I gotta read that wholly. If I can ascertain the characteristics of his rhythm, I can predict which of his many moves he will select next. It amounts to choosing a single needle from a pile and piercing its eye with absolute precision. This may be a heavy this may be a heavy undertaking, but it is not beyond me. I can do it. And then the king starts smiling. Old soldier, I'm counting on you. Let me finish my game. Don't collapse before then. He's laughing. But look who's talking. I'm enjoying this too. He instantly recovers from any blow, from any angle, and moves to counterattack. If I make a single mistake, his speed will rob me of the time I have to make my next move. If I lose my concentration, I'll be torn from limb to limb and it'll all be over. This is a battle of endurance and focus. I have no choice but to keep playing the best possible move. When I run out, it will be your end. That's what you think, King of Ants. Just try me. Checkmate me if you can. I'll show you the Zero Hand. And it shows both Netero and the king launching at each other. And that is the end of chapter 292. Onwards to chapter 293. Chapter 293, Metamorphosis. And we are back outside of the palace, where all of the citizens who were dazed and confused by Yuppie, they're all just still standing outside. Many of them just drooling from the mouth because of no, not Yuppie, but what Poof did. From Shawa Poof did. They're all just standing there, dazed and out of their minds. And now we are apparently cutting to a different section. We're cutting to a different section of the castle. And inside a room, we have what looks to be like some sort of cocoon and someone ripping out of it, but we don't see the face. Then we cut to Killua, who is apparently fully charged now.
Okay, fully charged.
And as he starts to move, he senses something and spins around really quick.
I'm being watched. What's more, I think I know this person.
And while Killua goes and runs in the direction of where he felt that feeling from, he gets to the corner, readies his yo-yo, which apparently is reflective, wheels it out so he can see if there's anyone there.
There's nobody there.
But then he notices something moving in the distance, and it's a person. And the person in question is Palm. And she looks like she's been transformed. Her arms and legs have scales and fins on them, and what appears to be a giant jewel or like a crystal ball is lodged in her head now. Killua's nerves were rattled, seeing how traces of Palm remained, yet she was obviously no longer the same person.
She's been captured by the royal guards and altered.
If Gon
sees her, he's on the brink already. He won't be able to hold it together. If Gon sees her, what if Palm's psyche has been altered too? Gon could lose it. I have to find out right here, right now.
And then Killua gets up and faces Palm. And she's standing there looking at him.
There's still a chance. She approached me. Palm, is that you? Since I felt her watching me, she must have seen me first. I thought her ability was a kind of search function like divination. It's probably closer to clairvoyance. She couldn't have seen me directly from where she was. She must have sensed me in some other way. If she were an enemy, she would have kept away. She wouldn't have any memory of me, and clairvoyance is just as effective from a distance. Since she approached me, she must remember me. Maybe all of us.
And then Palm speaks.
You're Killua. Where's Gon? I knew it! She does remember! Now that I look like this, do you think Gon won't like me anymore? He doesn't judge people by looks. Also, you're assuming he liked you in the first place. You're the same little brat as ever. Oh well, sympathy from you gets me nothing. Where's Gon? He's with Pito. Hang on. She saw me, but not Gon?
And then Killua stops moving. And Palm notices.
What's wrong? Was it just chance that you came towards me? What are you talking about? You're the one who came around the corner. No, I felt you watching me. That's why I came this way. You noticed me first. Tell me the truth. You're such a pest. Where's Gon? Maybe what I sensed was her looking straight at me. She moved away when she spotted me. And then... Answer my question first! She sensed me coming back and turned back, so it just seemed like she was seeking me out. Last time, where's Gon? I ain't telling. You're the enemy!
And then Palm's hair just like flays out, and she looks absolutely livid.
I learned I was wrong.
As her hair starts to wrap around her body. Completely.
There are better ways to use my abilities. Instead of bottling up my rage, I should simply wield it.
And it shows Palm's body being completely covered in her hair and giving her like a full-on dress and hat, it would seem.
Uh-oh. I have a bad... I should let it all out. I have a bad feeling about this.
And Killua immediately brings his yo-yo back and starts preparing them.
Like my desire to kill you, for example! Fury of Shadows, Black Widow!
And Palm is in an entire dress made to look like her hair. Complete with hat. And she launches at Killua. And Killua sends his yo-yo her way. And in one swoop, she destroys his yo-yo. Remember, his yo-yo are just like pure steel. These things are incredibly heavy. And she just destroys it with one hit. Then he uses... No, he's surprised by this. And Palm is right there preparing to deck him one. And he puts his hand up. And she just sends him flying.
Now what are you going to do?
And Palm proceeds to just beat up on Killua more and more and more.
Stay silent, give up and talk, or just die. Holy.
And Killua is just constantly being beaten up on by Palm. Meanwhile, Knuckle, ignoring Melioran's protests, confronted Poof. Poof. And this is Knuckle. Because Poof is right there in the same room with Pito and Gon. Poof. Step outside. And then Poof just kind of gives him a side eye like, who even are you? But that's the end of chapter 293. Onwards to chapter 294. I think we're making some good progress today. Okay. Chapter 294. Breakdown. And we're back with Palm. Black Widow turns Palm's hair into a weapon. It changes shape according to her emotions, but its function is entirely defensive. However, by forming a fortified armor of hair to protect herself, she could focus all her strength on offense. And it shows her bringing her fist down and punching Killua, sending him flying again.
Palm was a reinforcer. What a difference it makes when your ability is a good match. I can't block all her attacks. If this drags out, I'm doomed. But I can't run away. Gon is at his wit's end. He's barely hanging on, waiting for Pito. I can't let him see Palm, even if there's a shred of her psyche left. Right now, it can only hurt Gon. Palm, why are you looking for Gon? If you have a good reason, I'll tell you where he is. You're asking now? There's no reason, I just want to see him. He's close by, isn't he? I can look for him myself. After I kill you!
And she punches Killua again. And while he's righting himself, keeping himself from falling over, she's launching at him. And he jumps away before she basically craters the floor with one punch.
I'm sorry. I got stressed out and called you the enemy. But you're still Palm no matter what you look like.
And that causes Palm's eyes to go beady and for her to stop.
Gon's suffering right now. Someone who meant a lot to him was ruthlessly altered. Even his mind was changed. As we speak, Gon's facing off against the person responsible. If you show up without warning looking like that, he won't be able to hold it together. So you have to promise to call him by name first. That's my one condition. Let him know you're okay.
And then Palm's fist starts to loosen up.
He was so worried about you, up to the minute we came in here. Give him some peace of mind.
Killua said those words to buy time. He had no intention of taking her to Gon. At least, not at first. As Killua starts shedding tears.
Please, put his mind at ease. Only you, Palm, can do that now. Nobody else can reach him.
And Killua just hangs his head low.
Not me. I can't help him anymore!
And he just wails on the ground. He just wails on the ground, smashing the ground with his fists. When he put it into words, his welled-up emotions poured out like a burst dam. And then we have Minnie Poof! Minnie Poof going, and smiling going,
He's wide open. Change of plans. Kill him, number one.
'Cause Minnie Poof has been manipulating Palm, hiding in her hair. And then Palm's once relaxed fist starts to get all tensed up and clutched again. And then we go back in time. When Palm infiltrated the palace and came to the exit Nove placed by the central staircase, Pito's end switched on. Bathed in the brutal aura, she was nearly ground into dust by terror. Like Nove, she suffered a mental breakdown. Against Poof's implacable approach, Palm was driven out of her mind. Imagining herself as a helpless victim of Bicep, she tried to kill herself. However, Pito saved her. Just as it's impossible to stop shivering in the freezing cold, nobody can blame Palm for reflexively protecting herself the moment she was exposed to this evil aura. Intrigued by her powerful aura, and with the approval of the king, who agreed to forego a meal, Pito and Poof decided to make her experimental specimen number 1. Past memories sometimes remained in subjects with strong willpower. This was especially common among those possessing Nen abilities. These memories could affect the training process for better or worse. Memories connected to emotions caused the most interference. Having observed this, Pito's Dr. Blythe severed the neural connections between Palm's memories and her emotional center. The experiments on Chitu and Leol proved that those with intact memories regenerated from the cocoons faster. To gain control over humanity swiftly and quietly, puppets with memories were ideal. It seemed Palm was the perfect guinea pig. Success of the experiment spelled doom for mankind. and it shows Palm walking towards Killua, preparing to kill him at Minnie Poof's request.
Do it, number one! Beat that kid to death!
And then Palm speaks up.
Shut up.
Huh?
And then Killua's eyes open up.
My name is Palm Siberia.
Not number one!
And she proceeds to spin around and basically apparently obliterate the body of the Minnie Poof. And then she goes back to normal.
I will never be a tool of the ants.
And she dissipates her Black Widow. And then she just looks at Killua.
Killua, I owe it to you. There was a wall in my mind. I was separated from my feelings, but I couldn't do anything about it. It was like that from the moment I woke up. You remove that wall. Don't ever think you're powerless. I'll gladly do anything to help Gon, but don't forget, you're the one he needs the most.
And we have Palm at her most earnest, most honest, most authentic, saying this to Killua. The love of friends and family or other stimuli that provoke a passionate response can hasten recovery beyond medical expectations. There are documented cases of this, especially among people suffering from brain injuries. And then we cut back to Poof, who's flying with Yuppie. What's up?
It failed. Nothing more.
Slow and steady wins the race. Ultimately, we'll need soldiers with memories and emotions. But that means I don't need Pito's abilities. I can produce soldiers by myself. In fact, this is better for me. It will be more convenient in building our kingdom. And then we cut back to Poof, another Poof, who's with Knuckle. Fine, I'll take you on. Because this is the real Poof. The other Poof that's with Yuppie is a mini one that basically regrew his body to a much larger size. Fine, I'll take you on. A kingdom fit for the king and myself. But first... And then the chapter just ends with him saying, but first, because he's only thinking of himself and the king. He's not thinking of Yuppie, he's not thinking of Pito, he's thinking of a kingdom that it only exists for the king and himself, because the other two are apparently liabilities. But that is the end of chapter 294. Onwards to chapter 295. You know, some of these things I kind of forgot about when I watched the anime many years ago, but I'm glad I'm getting these recollections. Chapter 295, Determination. And we're here with Knuckle and Poof. First, let me say this. This body is merely a shell. My core is on the way to the king. And that gets Knuckle and Pito's attention, but Gon is unmoving because he's like giving Pito that Mike Tyson stare. After escaping the smoke cage, Poof verified that Knuckle and Moral make contact. He assumed that Knuckle had learned about his ability. He was correct. It's true. The boss told me about his segments. Knuckle said this for Gon's sake. By speaking honestly, Poof opened with a strong psychological gambit. It worked. But why bring that up? Poof's mind was on Yuppie. The fact that Knuckle was still alive meant Yuppie had let him live and hadn't reported it. Would there be hell to pay? To get to the truth about the changes he'd sensed in Yuppie, Poof needed to leave the room peacefully. To convince him, he told me not to move. If we're going somewhere for a duel, I need his permission. I'll take you on if I must, but I won't use any of my abilities. What I desire is a dialogue. That is why. Poof knew that the type of person who'd demand a duel, by hailing him from behind, would admire an honest approach.
Liar.
And that's when Poof's eyes just get like semi-hazy and annoyed.
You tried to sneak up and kill me. You said so yourself. Don't be tricked, Knuckle.
And this is Gon. He has not lost a single tone ever since he's been here. And even Knuckle is put off by the overall serious nature that's coming off of Gon right now.
You're a shell and not the real Poof? How do we even know that's true?
Oh, yeah. And Poof doesn't say anything. And Pito, still doing what he's doing. This kid is trouble. Of all our enemies, he has the most unwavering determination. Perhaps I should be grateful that he's preoccupied with Pito. It's because of his iron will that he's sitting there. I can't prove whether I'm real without giving myself an extreme handicap. You yourself will have to decide. So, what happens next is up to you. And then Pito's looking directly at Gon as if he's preparing to do something. And Pito goes,
No, don't!
and then Poof's... No, I said Pito. But Poof is looking like he's about to do something, and Pito goes,
No, don't!
and Poof has this almost rolled-up-eyed type look to himself, and Gon is just sitting there. And then Poof splits into numerous segments. Yeah, numerous mini Poof segments, and they all go flying away.
I'll wait at the front gate for 10 minutes. Show up or don't. It's your choice.
And then Pito goes,
Wait, I'm staying right here. I'm sorry about Poof. You only need me here, right?
and then Gon goes,
10 minutes. Heal her 10 minutes faster than we agreed.
and that's when the whole atmosphere changes for Pito again. Pito shuddered. It was unnerving that Poof had left without any concern for the consequences. But even more frightening was Gon coldly ignoring Poof's provocation and slashing Pito's deadline. At first, Pito had demanded more time than necessary, purely out of a desire to protect Komugi. But Gon had rejected it. The hour that they had agreed on was, considering Komugi's injuries, Pito's actual estimated time. However, through experience, Dr. Blythe was improving. Pito had just been thinking that it might be possible to finish 10 minutes early. It could be a coincidence. Gon had probably just picked that time to match Poof's parting words. And yet, Pito could not shake a feeling of foreboding.
If I don't stop him, this will be life or death.
His fangs could sink into...
His fangs could sink into the king's throat. That does it.
And Pito says this in front of Gon. And then we cut back to Knuckle, who's still standing there, because mind you, he has not left. Knuckle hasn't left. Then Gon speaks to him.
Knuckle! I can handle this myself. Whatever I said, I think it's true that Poof's core is off looking for the king. He's where the king is. South.
Gon knows. Gon knows exactly where the king is. And Knuckles all like, how do you know this? And then Pito's all like, huh? Gon knew. Gon knew that because he'd seen him leave. But Pito didn't know that and so assumed that Gon had seen through Poof's plans. That was the instant Poof's vague fear turned to firm conviction. Oh wait, sorry, not Pito. It was Pito. But Pito didn't know that and so assumed that Gon had seen through Poof's plans. That was the instant Pito's vague fear turned to firm conviction. Pito was completely committed to duty.
I can't let him live. He must die, whatever the
Whatever the coast. Whatever the coast. Whatever the coast. It's on the internet now. I can't backtrack.
Whatever the coast, whatever the coast, whatever the cost, to protect the king, I have to kill Gon. Before I heal Komugi? No, I can't risk her safety. But to whom should I entrust her? Poof and Yuppie don't care for her. If I leave, who will take Komugi to the king?
And then Knuckles speaks up. Gon, I know what you want to say, but I'll do things my own way. Yuppie was... And then he stops. If what he said made Gon upset or caused any doubt, never mind. At the last second, Knuckles stops short. Bye. And then he leaves. Then we cut back to the underground bunker with Ikago, and he's crying. Because remember, when he was fighting, when he put Blaster to sleep, and he wanted to bring down Blaster, he couldn't do it because he's never killed anybody.
No time to cry. I have to find Palm.
And he's looking on the security cams, and he sees that the doors are all open. All of the doors are open.
The door to the
I bit my tongue. Ow.
The door to the garage is open. The passage to the warehouse is too. Why?
Don't move, or I'll shoot.
And it's Welfin, who has somehow, despite his bigger size over Ikago has managed to sneak inside of the security room.
I have a lot of questions for you, but I'll kill you if you try anything funny.
Welfin! It's obvious what he wants to know. How many allies I have, their abilities. He'll pry it out of me by any means necessary. If I let anything leak, their lives will be at risk. But if he's a manipulator, I'll do it whether I want to or not.
And then he starts like sucking in air and inflating his head.
Hey, stop! I'll kill you! I mean it!
Go ahead and kill me. I'd rather die here than sell out my friends.
And he aims at Welfin and shoots him. And Welfin gets blown back. Oh, he can shoot Welfin, but he can't shoot Blaster? Okay. I see how picky you are, Ikago, but that's the end of chapter 295, onwards to chapter 296. We're making a lot of good time. We only got 4 more chapters after this. Chapter 296, Admission. And Welfin immediately gets hit by this shot, and he's injured all over, like his arms are bleeding.
What the heck? That hurts! How dare you! I'll kill you! Why'd you shoot me? Missile Man!
And Ikago apparently gets hit by the Missile Man missiles as Welfin falls over. But Ikago's fine.
I'm not dead. I'm not even hurt. What's going on here?
That stings. You slimy little freak. I can't believe this small fry exposed my weakness.
Missile Man relies on a verbal... Oh, wait.
Missile Man relies on a verbal exchange to take effect. I'm thrown off when they attack out of the blue like this. At least my wounds are deep. This one deserves a slow death.
And it cuts to Ikago's head, and it shows like something is moving around on his head where he's been hit. And they're crawling, and they're like centipedes that are crawling in his body right now.
Yeah, he implanted living creatures in my body.
I created those black centipedes with Nen. They grow by feeding on your defiance. If you disobey my orders or try to harm me, they'll inflict the worst pain imaginable and ultimately burst through your body and kill you!
And Ikalgo, not even bothered, loads another round into his gun. And Welfin's all like, huh?
What are you doing? Didn't you hear me? What do you think will happen if you do that?
And the centipedes just start moving around and chomping away in his head.
Just fight by me, if my life is all it takes.
And then he starts breathing in air again.
You idiot! Stop!
And he starts sucking in even more air.
Wait, if he's trying to kill me, that's the ultimate defiance. The centipede should instantly grow to fatal size.
And Ikalgo fires, and it goes straight through Welfin's leg.
Don't worry, I won't kill you. I just want you to stay put. I've got more bullets.
You've got to be kidding me! You'll die! I'm gonna kill you!
And then Welfin gets shot again in his other leg, despite the fact that these centipedes are literally tearing up his head on the inside.
Ah!
Yes! It's so easy to pull the trigger when the only price is my own life!
And he says this as these centipedes are eating away at the inside of his head, and he's smiling. And he starts breathing in air again, despite his defiance causing the centipedes to basically wear him down from the inside.
Stop! All right already! I won't move! I surrender! Please don't shoot me!
And the centipedes keep getting big to the point where you can see their legs literally coming out of his head.
Less pain. Now the creatures are in agony.
I can't move anymore. I lose, okay? Darn it. I knew this would happen someday.
Is it because Welfin admitted defeat?
I never realized how dangerous people can be when they disregard their own safety.
And Ikalgo's not moving.
Hey.
Hey,
What?
the pain's better now. But can you get these things out?
Shut up. I'm suffering too much to worry about you. There's no way to disable Missile Man. But telling him that would be suicide. How do I get out of this one? Wait. Hold on. Buy time. Vision. Until I get a better idea. Fading.
And then Welfin pretends to pass out and pretends to die. He pretends to die. And then he's slowly peeking. He's like slowly, lightly peeking out of his eye to see if Ikalgo's paying attention. And then Ikalgo gets mad and then aims his gun at him.
Whoa, wait! Just kidding, I won't do it again!
Then get him out of me!
Well,
Time's up!
Whoa, wait! I can't undo it! Once I fire, that's it! That's why I didn't want to tell you! It's the truth, you gotta believe me! I'm not trying to trick you!
And then the centipedes start moving in his head again.
Again, they're in pain, reacting to Welfin's confession.
What did you expect? I attacked to kill. Like I care what happened to them afterwards. They say Nen abilities reflect your personality.
Welfin? his personality, his feelings. Do you remember when you were human? Why ask? I want to know. I knew someone like him.
Huh? No. I don't remember.
That's a lie.
What? What? Stop! Hold on! Calm down!
Tell me, or I'll shoot.
When I came to, my first thought was, I still remember. Darn it, I still remember. I was killed by monsters in NGL, eaten by the queen, and then reborn as a different creature. But I still remembered what I most wanted to forget. The image of my father throttling me, and the woman behind him just watching. That was my first flashback. Then I slowly remembered the rest.
And it shows the centipedes like they're in pain, but they're not causing pain to Ikalgo.
The one who saved me was my stepbrother. I remember he reminded me of Gyro.
Or Giro, however you want to pronounce it.
He reminded me of Gyro.
Euro?
You know, our king. He used to argue over who had the worst luck. With him, I could laugh about the bad old days. We were both empty inside, so we didn't have anything to hide. Where is he now?
And the centipedes are like flailing, and it looks like they're basically throttling themselves and killing themselves, like they're violently dying.
I wish I could see him again.
And it looks like the centipedes are pretty much all gone, and the only thing we have left is just patches of spotted and destroyed flesh on Ikalgo's head.
That's all I want. To see him. I don't care about ants, or people, or money. Go. The centipedes are history. Don't you have other stuff to do?
Why'd you open the passage?
Ah? To let some small fry who was after the treasure down here. They're no threat. I saw you and Blaster on the monitors. I let them in as you were coming back. That's all. I saw you couldn't shoot Blaster. Like an idiot, I figured you'd be a pushover. Just go. I'm too tired.
One last question. Have you seen a woman in the palace?
Ah? I don't know if it's a woman, but there was one human who got caught and put into a cocoon. Upstairs, end of the hall on the right. They called it number 1.
What's so funny?
And then Welfin just smiles at Ikalgo and goes,
It's so easy to tell the truth.
Then we cut back to Chairman Netero against the king. The thousands of blows were starting to give the king a dull internal ache. But then, and then there's a blood splatter, and then there's a leg falling, and it's Netero's leg that has been chopped off. The chairman has lost a leg.
Staunch the bleeding and tell me my name. You did well for a human.
And that's the end of chapter 296. Onwards to chapter 297. Oh! Chapter 297, The Last. And it shows the chairman standing there on his one leg with his other leg just essentially, just a stump.
Well, you'll die of blood loss.
Don't make me laugh. And then Netero just focuses and he puts his hand on his leg, and his leg itself closes itself. His leg, his open, gaping, severed, dismembered leg, like the part of his leg that's still there, still attached, he makes it close up just by focusing. Who's dying now? One lucky punch. Don't get cocky. We're just getting started. I am thoroughly impressed. It's a marvel that your drive has not diminished in the least. But it was inevitable that you would lose a limb. Your attacks are flawless, but your defense imperfect. His games with Komugi had given him almost supernatural foresight. The moves that you subconsciously favor illuminate a path through an apparently infinite decision tree. Next, I'll take your left arm. And then the king disappears from in front of Netero. And then Netero prepares. This is it. And it shows the Bodhisattva from Netero's position. This exchange took less than a minute. The last time in my life. Netero's knowledge that this was his last stand, coupled with the adrenaline high of combat, drove the exchange of blows to well over 1,000. Sparks showered between them in fountains. And then, the key moment came to pass, as it shows the king and Chairman Netero fighting each other in like this vast, endless expanse of space. Like the image of them fighting is just like, oh, this is such a beautiful panel. And then the key moment came to pass. And it shows the chairman's eyes widening. Taking Netero's blows head on, the king sought the faint light through the needle's eye, the imperceptible bias in Netero's moves, a bias so slight it could not even be called habit. The king found the path and reached its end. And it shows the king dodging one of the arms, making a clear line towards Netero. And as he brings his hand up, the king moves, and like he said, he takes off the chairman's left arm. And they've both passed each other, the king behind Netero, and Netero without a left arm now. He's now down a right leg, and he's down a left arm. Now, are you satisfied? Say it. What's my name? King of Ants. You think I need 2 arms to pray? And then he just brings one hand up. What is prayer? It's an action of the heart. Formed properly from within, it becomes a wish, and the wish bears fruit. 100 type Guan Yin Bodhisattva. 0 hand. Looming from behind, the Guan Yin moves in for her final attack. And it shows the Bodhisattva behind Netero. Endless amount of hands by its side. Gently, but firmly, engulfing the target in a tender clasp. The menace Killua sensed from several miles away was Netero focusing every last ounce of his aura. All for this. Fired in a flare like a dazzling star. I actually think that this is just regular narration, and this isn't Chairman Netero describing this. Looming from behind, the Guanyin moves in for her final attack. Gently but firmly, engulfing the target in a tender clasp. The menace Killua sensed from several miles away was Netero focusing every last ounce of his aura. All for this. Fired in a flare like a dazzling star, and the Bodhisattva opens its mouth and it looks like it's about to shoot out a beam. It was a merciless roar from the most merciful goddess. And then Netero puts his hand up. He brings these two fingers down, and then he keeps this clasped, and the only finger that's up is the middle finger. I can't show that because it would simply look like I'm flipping somebody off, regardless of how it looks. So just imagine his fingers like this, his ring fingers are down like this, and the middle finger's up. That is his last move against, well, apparently his big move against the king. And the king gets engulfed in this massive Bodhisattva blast. And it just blasts down. It just blasts down on the king for like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 panels. 5 whole panels of just getting blasted. Who knows how many seconds this was. And when it's done, we get the chairman's hand. But it's no longer muscular. It now looks frail and old and withered. And the chairman is there with his entire physique completely devoid, almost completely devoid of muscle. Wheezing and coughing. And then a figure stands out of the point of impact and speaks. Truly, the best of man. And it's the king, completely ragged and torn to many pieces, but still having all of his limbs intact. That was brilliant. Not even 0. I was born as the king of ants, the crowning glory of life. All of your kind evolved solely to produce me. I am the culmination of generations of their unhesitating service. You are one of many, and no king. I hold in my hands the future of my species. Of course you could never win. The ecology of the chimera ant is focused on the endpoint of all... The ecology of the chimera ant is focused on the endpoint of all evolution. On me. Humanity, with its messy diversity, its individuals, never had a chance. Now we know that the strong individuality of humanity disrupts the ant's command and structure. There is no benefit to using humans in our reproduction. And Netero hasn't said anything. In your honor, I will provide a special preserve for humanity's permanent settlement. We will consider both quality and quantity when selecting humans for food. Your lone battle was not in vain. This is the last time. Say my name. And then Netero, despite hearing this grand villain platitude, this big old speech, someone clearly didn't watch The Incredibles. He goes, I'm not alone. Don't underestimate humans. Meruem. And that is the end. Ooh, and the thing is, when he says this appearance of a skull surrounded by aura just takes up the last panel. And that's where we ended. Oh! But yeah, that's the end of chapter 297, onwards to chapter 298. We are almost done with this week's reading of Hunter x Hunter. And I honestly feel I could be done in April. I actually could be done in April with all of my readings. But chapter 298, Rose. Not even able to savor the sound of his name, the king stared at this defiant old man, who should have been... Wait, so let me read this again, because it needs to be done properly. Chapter 298, Rose.
Meadowem, that's your name.
Not even able to savor the sound of his name, the king stared at this defiant old man, who should have been quavering before him. What? What is this?
Meadowem, king of ants. You have no idea, do you? You know nothing of the bottomless malice within the human heart.
And as the chairman is sitting there, body frail, weak, devoid of muscle, he smiles, eyes completely black, as a giant skull appears behind them. And then the king starts shuddering. The air around the king completely changes. That was the first time in his life the king felt fear. The old man, wrung dry, had nothing to hope for but death. Yet his expression showed that he meant every single word. And then the chairman takes his one remaining arm and jabs it directly into his chest. He just jabs his fingers directly into his chest. And then it shows a panel of the king looking, and then apparently a different panel of someone looking at the chairman going, "When your heart stops beating, this will detonate." And then the chairman speaks. Not why do I keep saying the king? His name is Meadowem. Then Meadowem just looks, but the person says, "When your heart stops beating, this will detonate." Then Netero continues. Well, internally goes,
"See you in hell, if there is one."
And Meadowem can only look. "What have you done?"
"Old man, the game was over before we even started."
And then the chairman gets enveloped in a light as the entire point of their battle gets enveloped in a gigantic explosion. The bomb was cheap and was small. The bomb was small and cheap, yet lethal. Once it had been developed, it was quickly mass-produced. This, along with the peculiar shape of the fallout cloud, earned this bomb the favorite of dictators. The name, the poor man's rose. And the explosion happens, and as the fallout cloud starts, it just basically takes on this rose shape. In each of 250 regions, the rose had blossomed 10 times over, taking over 5,120,000 lives. When terrorists used it in the heart of an enemy capital, causing 110,000 casualties, an international treaty was established banning further production. But 80% of the countries refused to dispose of or ban the use of existing roses. Years later, hundreds of thousands of seeds still silently waited to bloom. Were humans so different from ants? How could Netero not have considered this question as he made his choice? By then, it was too late to ask, as it shows Yuppie and Poof flying in the direction of Meadowem, but all they can see in the distance is the giant poor man's rose cloud coming up from the point of the battle. And they both take off. They're both Yuppie and Poof are looking, and then they both take off. The two instantly understood what the distant rumbling and black smoke meant. At the same time, Knuckles saw Poof's segment. He held on to the faint hope that they might be able to reach a truce after his ordeal with Yuppie. And it shows Poof looking at Knuckle, and half of his face is contorted to that of an ant. And then Knuckle jumps backwards. But in that moment, his hopes were totally crushed, as that segment of Youppi flies off.
The king can wave his magic wand and turn them all into mindless drones. Poof's core was responding to whatever had happened to the king. His face showed the true nature of the ants. Did the chairman manage to kill the king? Does it matter?
He saw in Poof's face an insurmountable barrier. And it shows both Youppi and Poof making it to the point of impact, to ground zero for this bomb. And I'm just thinking, you probably shouldn't be there! But they both are right there in front of this blazing inferno.
The epicenter of the explosion, the melting rocks glowing like a volcanic crater, spewed black smoke, driving all life away.
And Youppi is sweating bullets, looking absolutely mortified.
Poof! I'll go in. You look around. The blast must have thrown them. You know, I was wrong. Once we find the king, we'll kill them all. Every last one of them.
And then Poof proceeds to split into many smaller segments, and they both start searching.
Faced with the overwhelming malice toward their king, the two turn completely into ants.
And Youppi is flying everywhere. Youppi is flying everywhere with all of his segments. Poof transforms his body to become appendages that have eyes that are stretching in every single direction. Mind you, they flew directly into the fire. They flew directly in there. And as they're searching, the segments, Poof is looking, Youppi's looking around, and then his body's like shuddering. And then we get the segments looking as Youppi is screaming, apparently. And then what looks to be a facsimile of Poof as a butterfly, it looks like it's been severed off. Like just the visage. Because apparently Youppi found something. And that's the end of chapter 298, onwards to chapter 299. We're almost done, ladies and gentlemen. Just keep on holding tight. I'm messing up my own text here. Sorry about that. We're doing good. Once again, shout out to Mr. Ravi for telling me and instructing me on the ways of having the chapter numbers up here so people can know exactly where we're at. Instead of me just telling you what it is, this will be how I do from now on so people can understand how far we are progressing within a series of chapters that we're going through. Chapter 299, Regeneration.
Youppi's howl foretold nothing good. Before he even saw him, Poof's face was covered in tears.
And they're both screaming and yelling because the king's charred corpse is literally in Youppi's arms. No! No! Sire! No! And they just can't stop screaming. They can't stop crying as they're holding on to the king's body. And the king manages to open his eyes just a little bit.
He's alive! But look at him!
Look at him! We have to do something! There is no way we can save him in time! We can't make it back to Pito fast enough!
And then Poof is silent and goes,
It's all right. I'll save the king.
But how?
I'll let him consume me. Simple as that.
And then the segments start to basically dissipate into a mist.
Listen, my cells. Permeate his body and heal him.
And they all turn into like a mist that enters into the king's body. And they start entering into his body, trying to regenerate him. And then the king starts to really wake up.
Sire!
Sire!
Sire, how do you feel?
And then the king speaks.
An exquisite delicacy beyond description. Like breathing the air of paradise. I can feel my energy flooding back. It's like some enchanted fairy mist.
Oh, sire! Oh, how gracious his praise! I'm not worthy! Excellent, sire. Eat as much as you please. We have plenty.
And Yuppie's just watching.
Too good. Now that I have tasted this, my palate will reject anything else.
And then Poof, just being the overall Meadowham fanatic, just goes,
Oh, sire, 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 sire! Please, no more. I can't take any more of this heavenly bliss. My heart will burst in ecstasy.
Then, sire, try this too.
and Yuppie splits his finger and causes a bit of it to drop into Meadowham's mouth.
He liquefied his cells. Smart thinking, Yuppie.
Ah, what rich, deep depths of flavor. I can only imagine it came from the heavens. Veritable dewdrops of the angels.
And even Yuppie's all like, oh, sire, I'm not worthy of your praise. He's literally acting like that.
I cannot compare the two. I will not hesitate to declare both supreme. I need more of both. Give me as much as you have.
And then both Yuppie and Poof literally just lose it. They literally just lose it.
Such supreme bliss!
The ultimate joy.
Yes, of course!
Gladly.
Our king!
Our liege.
And like they're losing their minds over this.
Why do I feel this way?
What's happening to me? From now on, you may call me Meadowham.
And then they're taken out of their stupor by hearing the king's name.
That is the name bestowed upon me by my mother.
Oh, yes.
Now I see.
By facing the king's near death and revival, and sharing the essence of their own being, they became equals to the queen, the mother of their species.
This is unconditional love.
The love of a mother for her child.
And that's the end of chapter 299. Onwards to chapter 300. And that means after this, we only have 110 more chapters to go before I am fully caught up with Hunter x Hunter. We have entered into the final 100 hurdle of the series thus far, ladies and gentlemen. Then after that, it's only gonna be 10 chapters, and then I'm fully caught up. But onwards to the last chapter of the day, chapter 300, Insurance. And we get a Colgo who's leaving the underground roadways, and he's seeing all the devastation that happened outside. Because remember, he was indoors before all of this with Yuppie blowing up. And everything dealing with Moral and Knuckle went down. He was already gone.
Whoa! I hope everyone's alright.
And then he sees the crater where Yuppie exploded.
Holy crud! It's only been half an hour!
And he's seeing all of the destruction. The crater of Yuppie, the toppled tower. Actually, the tower itself is finally falling under its own weight, and it just crumbles into the ground.
Yeesh!
Ikalgo?
Killua!
And he sees Palm. And Palm is right next to him.
Palm! I'm so glad you made it back! I'll drive you to Peijin as we planned.
No, she wants to stay. Well, she's totally earned it. She's probably got more sheer power than I do.
I'd like to see Gon as soon as possible, but I'll wait. I'll respect his wishes.
Wishes?
He decided to fight Pito by himself, and once he's made up his mind, he won't budge. But to be honest, that's the situation with the best chance for victory. Which means all we can do now is not interfere.
But what if...
Yeah, I know. If he gets into an absolute jam, we'll be at his side in a second.
I get it. That's what staying means. Even if he uses everything he's got, there's no way Gon can beat Pito. And we know the rest of us combined won't have a chance either. To stay is to die together.
We're looking for Knuckle. Wanna come?
Of course!
And then both Killua and Ikalgo smile at each other.
Okay, let's go.
And then they catch up to Knuckle.
We separated the royal guards while the chairman took care of the king. Like Nove said, we fulfilled our duties. Now it's all about what we want to do. Do we call it a wrap or continue?
And everyone's silent, so no one gives an answer except for Knuckle.
I say, we duke it out to the very end. I'm still alive for a reason. Even if we can't get along, I'll keep fighting until I'm satisfied.
So, everyone, Melioron, Ikalgo, Palm, and Killua, and Knuckle all make their way back to the palace. Then we get Gon! And he finally stands up. Oh! He finally stands up!
You're done.
How? It's not time yet. How did he know I'd finish the surgery? I tried to keep the incision site hidden. If he caught my slight relaxation in that instance, then he knows what else I've been thinking.
Get up.
And Gon is just standing there. He's standing! And he's looking, and mind you, his eyes have not changed at all. I don't think this Joker even blinked. He's standing there over Pito.
Get up.
It hasn't even been an hour since everything's happened. It's everything that's gone down ever since they've shown up. Moral, poof, every bit of fighting we've seen ever since they've shown up. Timer says 49 minutes, 57 seconds, and 81 milliseconds. It hasn't even been an hour.
We're going to Peijin. It'll be faster for us to run.
And then Komugi wakes up.
What happened to me? What happened to me?
And then Pito looks at Gon and goes,
I'd like to...
Pito, the next time you speak out of line, I'll kill her.
and he's saying this, and he just looks directly at Pito.
The next time you speak out of line, I'll kill her.
I'm sorry. Did I do something wrong? I don't know what's going on.
And then Pito doesn't say anything and just goes,
All right, let's go.
At this distance, Pito could decapitate Gon with one arm, but Pito didn't move. Sensing Gon's amazingly sharpened intuition, Pito's instincts spoke.
Not now. I'll get my chance.
Anywhere on the way to
Anywhere on the way to Peijin. But I have to get Komugi to the king.
And while they're preparing to go, Killua and Knuckles show up.
Hey, Gon. Want me to use Hakaware? We can track this fool in case of escape. And my APR will shield you if he attacks.
Komugi is still confused about the whole deal overall. And Gon, whose eyes still haven't changed, no shine, just still the same. He goes,
Thanks, Knuckle, but we'll be fine. I trust Pito.
and Pito, sweating bullets.
So, Knuckle, take care of that girl until Pito and I see Kite.
And Komugi's thinking,
Are they talking about me? He's using Komugi as a hostage.
and even Knuckles all like, huh?
Once Pito heals Kite, we'll release her. So, you'll trust me too. Right, Pito?
And Gon is saying this towards Pito, and Pito is absolutely terrified. And then Pito starts running. Mind you, Pito's arm is broken because of the show of fealty that he showed towards Gon before all this happened. But they start taking off. Both Gon and Pito are leaving only Ikalgo, Melioran, Komugi, Knuckle, Killua, and Palm behind.
You sure, Killua?
Huh?
You don't want to go with them? Killua was ready to die with him, but Gon was so dismissive.
Pito and I will take it from here. That was the original plan, anyway. Besides, I was relieved to hear his hostage plan. If I went and Pito captured me, it turned into a hostage exchange and things could go bad.
How many bloodbaths did they endure to reach this mindset?
I saw Gon with my eye. I'll be able to see what happens. And Pito will never abandon this girl. That means Gon will be safe.
And then Komugi is thinking like,
I can't keep up with any of this. Where's the leader? Who are these people?
and that's the end of the chapter. Volume 28, Regeneration, end. We've witnessed the finality of the fight between Meruem and the chairman. The chairman literally blowing himself up to bring down the king, bring down Meruem, but Meruem is still alive thanks to Yuppie and Poof. Pito finishing the surgery of Komugi. But now Gon and Pito are preparing to go see Kite. And I think many of us who have seen the anime know how this is going to end. But I can't wait to read that volume. And pretty much all of the major fighting, for the most part, is pretty much done. Except for one more instance. And I think that's going to happen in the next volume. But that's the end of volume 28. Ladies and gentlemen, before I even hit 2 o'clock, we have finished with Hunter x Hunter volume 27. Well, volume 28. Sorry, volume 28. It's literally right there. My bad. But we are done with volume 28. Next week, we will continue. Well, next week is the last week, isn't it? No, we still got 2 more weeks of February left. But this is the end of the reading for Hunter x Hunter for today. I especially enjoyed reading this one. Time for me to eat some lunch, and then later on this evening, we're going to be checking out the first State of Play from PlayStation. So I hope to see you guys here, also there. But I'm done. Hope you all enjoyed. Can't wait to see you all in my next video. Like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Even check out the Patreon because there's loads of free stuff for you over there. Because I am always looking forward to entertaining you. And because I know you're coming back anyway. Have a fantastic day. And once again, as always, later, peoples.